I felt his fingers slide under the hem of my dress before I could remember his name. He pressed me against the hotel mirror like he already owned every inch of me. I did not ask him about his life, and he did not ask about mine. We were two strangers pretending that the outside world did not exist. My lipstick was smeared. His belt was already on the floor. My wedding ring never came off, but it might as well have vanished. I let him take me like I had nothing to lose. But I had everything. And the worst part? I swore I would never see him again. To all my amazing viewers, thank you for being here. If you have already subscribed, I am so grateful. Your support means the world. And if you are new or just watching and have not hit that button yet, please do. Your subscription is the fuel that keeps this channel alive, that keeps these raw, honest stories coming. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know everything you feel about what you just read. And now, let me tell you how it all began. My name is Rachel Hayes. I live in a quiet neighborhood outside Charlotte, North Carolina. I am 34 years old, married for 9 years to a man who loves me more than I deserve. His name is Adam. He is loyal, steady, gentle. The kind of man who still kisses my forehead before he leaves for work. We have no children, but we had been trying. At least, we were. This all started 2 years ago. A girls' weekend in Vegas. Nothing scandalous. Just 4 tired suburban women trying to remember who they used to be before soccer games and grocery lists. We drank too much. We danced in too high heels. We laughed like we were 21 again. And then I met him. He was standing at the bar, alone. Tall. Tanned. A voice like whiskey over ice. His name was Sean, or maybe Sean. I never asked how he spelled it. We exchanged looks. That was all it took. My friends went back to the hotel without me. I followed him into the night like I was under a spell. I told myself it was a mistake the second it was over. I cried in the shower. I flew home and buried it so deep I almost convinced myself it never happened. I made love to Adam the night I returned just to remind myself where I belonged. And then, I moved on. Until last month. Adam came home one evening excited, really excited. He was finally getting a chance to expand his construction firm. A big opportunity. New investors. He told me we were meeting them for dinner that Saturday. I smiled and acted happy. But when we walked into the restaurant, my blood turned to ice. Sean was sitting across the table, grinning at Adam like they were long-lost brothers. And God help me, I almost collapsed. He looked exactly the same. Clean-cut, confident, devastating. His eyes locked onto mine with no hesitation, no shame. There was a flicker in his gaze. Like he was amused. Like he knew exactly what he had done and could not wait to do it again. He reached out and shook Adam's hand, then mine. "Rachel, right?" he said, pretending not to already know the shape of my mouth. I wanted to vomit. I barely touched my food. My hands were trembling the whole night. I kept glancing at Adam, who was beaming, proud to be sitting beside his wife and across from his new business partner. And I kept remembering Sean's hands on my body. His mouth on my thighs. The way I moaned in that hotel room and begged him not to stop. The way I swore to myself, sweating, shaking, sobbing in a cab at 3 a.m., that it would never happen again. Now here he was, laughing with my husband. Moving into our lives like it was fate. I avoided him the next 2 weeks. Adam mentioned meetings, calls, plans. I smiled and nodded. I faked headaches. I avoided the office where they were working on site plans. I did everything I could to keep my distance. Until yesterday. I was driving back from Target. Rain was coming down in sheets. My phone buzzed with a text from Adam. A tire blew out on his truck. He needed me to swing by the site and grab some papers for him. I pulled into the lot, grabbed the envelope at the front desk. And Sean was waiting for me by my car. No words. Just that same smirk. That same tension. "I thought you said I would never see you again," he murmured. "I meant it," I said, clutching the folder like it would protect me. "You meant it that night too." I should have walked away. I should have driven off. But I stood there. And I let him get close. Close enough that I could smell the same cologne he wore in Vegas. Close enough to feel the heat building between us like fire between soaked logs. Close enough that I forgot everything but how he made me feel when the rest of the world vanished. I hated myself. And yet, I knew this was not over. Not even close. The moment Sean stepped back, my breath caught in my chest like it had been stolen. The rain tapped hard against my car's windshield, but it was nothing compared to the pounding in my chest. I stood there. Soaking wet, trembling, confused, while the man I had sworn to forget smiled at me like he already knew I would fall again. He did not touch me. Not yet. But I felt it anyway, his presence, his temptation. The ghost of that night in Vegas had become flesh again. And I hated how alive it made me feel. I drove home in silence. I kept the radio off. I rolled down the windows to let the rain soak into my hair, hoping it would cool the fire that had started inside me. But it only made it worse. Adam was waiting in the kitchen when I returned, drinking coffee, his sleeves rolled up and his hands dirty with grease from fixing his truck. He kissed my cheek and thanked me for going out of my way. He smiled at me like I was still the woman he believed in. I smiled back, like a coward. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of that parking lot. I kept seeing Sean's face. I kept hearing his voice. I kept remembering his hands gripping my hips like he had waited his whole life to touch me. I told myself it was just chemistry. That it was just the past. That I would never see him again. I was wrong. 3 days later, I pulled into the office to drop off lunch for Adam. It was not a plan. It was not a setup. It was just a simple, kind gesture. A wife doing something thoughtful for her husband. Sean opened the front door before I even knocked. "You are not here for lunch," he said softly. I could not answer. I stood there, frozen, trying to remember why I had come in the first place. My hands were shaking. He stepped aside. I walked past him. The office was quiet. The blinds were closed. Adam had gone to another site. It was just me and Sean, again. He closed the door behind us. The silence between us was thick. Heavy. I held the paper bag of food like a shield in front of me. I could not look at him without remembering what his skin felt like against mine. "You are still wearing the ring," he said. I never took it off. Neither did I. That made me flinch. I had never asked if he was married. I had never cared. But now, it mattered. I turned to leave. I needed to walk away. But he stepped in front of the door and said my name. The way he said it, slow, low, almost reverent, made my knees weak. I dropped the lunch on the desk. I did not even realize I had let go of it. Then he kissed me. It was not soft. It was not sweet. It was the kind of kiss that ripped everything open inside me. I kissed him back like I had forgotten who I was. I kissed him like I had not been touched in years. I kissed him like I wanted to feel alive again. Clothes came off fast. His shirt landed on the office chair. My blouse hit the floor. He lifted me onto the table without asking and spread my legs like he had every right. And I let him. I let him in again, completely, shamelessly, desperately. I moaned his name like it was a prayer I was not supposed to say out loud. He grabbed my waist, bit my neck, and took me like he had been starving. My wedding ring hit the wood of the desk as I clawed at the surface, eyes shut, heart pounding, completely lost in lust and betrayal. I came undone under him. And the moment it was over. I felt the shame return like a tidal wave. I dressed quickly. My hands were trembling. I did not say goodbye. I did not look at him. I left the office without touching the lunch I had brought. When I got home, Adam was already there. He was in the living room, watching a documentary, sipping tea like nothing was wrong. He kissed my cheek and asked how my day was. I told him it was quiet. Then I locked myself in the bathroom and cried until my ribs hurt. I knew it was not just a mistake anymore. The first time in Vegas, that was a mistake. This was a choice. A conscious decision to betray the one man who never stopped choosing me. I tried to push Sean out of my life again. I stopped answering calls. I avoided the job sites. I lied to Adam about where I was going and when I would be back. I lived in a state of silent panic, praying that it would all pass. Then, one evening, I got a call from my best friend Megan. She asked if she could come over. Her voice sounded tight. Nervous. She walked into my kitchen holding her phone, eyes wide. "Rachel," she said, "I think you need to see this." It was a photo. Me. In Sean's arms. Outside the office. My legs wrapped around his waist. His face buried in my neck. Caught by someone's camera, maybe a coworker, maybe a stranger. It did not matter. The proof was real. My stomach dropped. "I do not know who took it," she said. "But you need to fix this. Before Adam finds out." I stood there shaking. Speechless. Ashamed. Megan grabbed my shoulders and looked me dead in the eyes. "Who is he, Rachel?" "I do not know," I whispered. "I swear to God, I do not know who he really is." And that was the terrifying truth. I did not know who Sean was. I did not know why he had come back. I did not know if he had planned this, or if it was all some sick twist of fate. All I knew was that I had given him more than my body. I had given him power. And I had no idea what he was going to do with it. The next morning felt like death in slow motion. I did not sleep. I lay in bed next to Adam, listening to his breathing, memorizing the sound of peace before it shattered. The photo Megan showed me was real. There was no denying it. No talking my way out. No, it was nothing. No excuses. I had been caught. And now I had to decide who would find out first, Adam, or the person who took that picture. I waited. 4 hours. Every notification on my phone sent a bolt of panic through my chest. I did not eat. I barely moved. I just stared at my reflection in the mirror, wondering how the hell I got here. And then Adam's phone rang. He answered in the other room. I could hear the low hum of his voice. Calm at first. Then, silence. He came back into the room a few minutes later, holding his phone like it had burned him. He did not say a word. He just looked at me. His eyes were different, wider, harder. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. "Rachel, who is Sean?" My throat closed. I met him in Vegas. 2 years ago. It was one night. I swear I thought I would never see him again. Adam stared at me like I was a stranger in his house. "So when I introduced you, you already knew?" I nodded slowly, tears starting to spill. His hands curled into fists at his sides. "And you slept with him again?" I could not lie. "Not anymore." "Yes." The silence that followed was louder than a scream. Adam walked out of the room without a word. The front door slammed hard enough to make the walls shake. And just like that, the man who had built a life with me, trusted me, loved me without condition, was gone. I dropped to the floor. I had never felt so empty in my life. I knew I needed to end things with Sean. Cut him off. Walk away for good. But something in my gut told me it was already too late. And I was right. Because that night, I learned who Sean really was. Megan called me, her voice shaking. Rachel, you need to sit down. I just did a search on the guy. I do not even know how to say this. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding my breath. Sean Blackwood is not just some investor. He is Adam's half-brother. I blinked. What? They have the same father. Sean grew up in Arizona. His mother left the family when he was a kid. He changed his last name. They have not seen each other since they were teenagers. My heart dropped into my stomach. So, he knew. I think so. I think he knew exactly who Adam was. I could not breathe. He had planned it. Vegas. The affair. Coming back into our lives. This was not an accident. This was revenge. Later that night, I drove to the office. I had to know the truth. Sean was there, sitting in Adam's chair like he owned the place. When I walked in, he smiled. So, he finally knows. You planned this, I said. He did not deny it. I saw your wedding ring that night in Vegas. I asked your name. I Googled you when you left. And when I found out who your husband was, it felt like fate. Why? He stood, walked over to me slowly. Because he ruined my life, he said. Our father abandoned me. Gave everything to Adam. His name. His money. His love. I spent my life watching from the outside while your husband lived the life that should have been mine. I stepped back, disgusted. So you seduced me? Just to hurt him? No, he said, eyes dark. That part was not planned. You were the twist I did not expect. You were the part one actually wanted. His words made my skin crawl. I do not care what you wanted, I said. Stay away from me. Stay away from Adam. He laughed. It is a little late for that, Rachel. I left. I did not tell Adam the rest. I could not. He already looked at me like I was dead to him. I stayed in a hotel that night. And the night after. 2 weeks later, divorce papers came in the mail. Adam never returned my calls. Never answered my texts. Never asked for an explanation. He just disappeared. Megan said she saw him once, at a bar near the edge of town. Drinking alone. Staring into space. I wanted to believe he was better off without me. Because the truth was, he was. I had betrayed the one man who gave me everything. For a stranger who turned out to be the biggest lie of all. And the worst part? Some nights, when I cannot sleep, I still remember how it felt. The danger. The thrill. The fire. But I also remember the cost. And it was everything.